Hello, everybody. Welcome to SportsSkope. I'm your host, Robert Butler. On this second day of August 2022, we have preseason NFL football Thursday. I cannot believe it. The Hall of Fame game, they're usually terrible. Nobody plays starters in it, but it is football. Got a big show tonight, everybody. Of course, a lot of breaking news over the past few days, particularly today. Juan Soto, big move, big trade by the San Diego Padres. Big kudos to them. I'll talk a little bit about that. Also, Deshaun Watson, about what I said. And I'm going to go over how the NFL is really hypocritical, really don't care. This is all for imaging, very inconsistent. Got a really good quote, recruiting pitch by Jimbo Fisher, why he's really, why Nick Saban feels such a threat by this guy. Really good little speech he did on recruitment, pitch off the top of his head to the Colin Cowherd show. Also, but for Bill Russell, remembering Bill Russell, we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, let's talk about Stephen Ross. You may have heard earlier this afternoon, the NFL notified the Dolphins on Tuesday that the team would be stripped of their 2023 first-round pick, among other disciplinary measures for violation of league policies related to the integrity of the game. This is following a 6-month investigation. Now, this is coming from the allegations about the Brian Flores that went on with his firing, everybody. With the accusations of him and his firing and the allegations of tampering, the report of the Boston Globe that he had contacted and the Miami Dolphins have contacted Tom Brady. They had this big grand scheme of things to get Tom Brady there, even when he was still technically under contract. Again, remember I talked about this back when this story first broke. I believe it because it sounds very Miami Dolphins, Stephen Ross-like, stupid, sloppy, and it was true. He did reach out to then, although retired, Sean Payton still, and Ross knew this, the Saints still had his rights because they still had Sean Payton, the Saints coach, under contract. And, of course, Tom Brady was under contract. There were promises of ownership with Brady, and as be a player also, 40-something years old, 45, and then Sean Payton was going to come in. Very sloppy, very telegraphed, and it's what I've been telling you about this team for a while under his leadership. So he gets in trouble. He can't. He was fined $1.5 million. He can't be on the facility until October, I want to say. What does this say? And additional, they get a first-round pick. Also, will forfeit in the Dolphins will forfeit their 2024 third-round selection. He can't come back until after October 17th. Still feels like a slap on the wrist, if you ask me. The investigation, they did not find tampering, quote unquote, to the paying Brian Flores to lose football games, but they did see evidence of him not being serious, Pickles, not being serious about paying Brian Flores to tank games. Now, I don't know. I'm suspicious about the NFL saying that they did not find any serious intentions for the Dolphins to lose games in 2019. Now, rewind this story back a little bit. They wanted to get Joe Burrow. They wanted to get the guy who was in the Super Bowl last year. Okay? That's who they wanted to get. Now, to my notes, after doing a little bit of research, again, I told you all that. For those of you all that follow this program on a weekly basis, know that I totally believed it because it sounds totally sloppy and inauthentic. Stephen Ross. Okay. Now, since he has been there, he buys this team, I want to say, let me go back to the beginning of my, I got a lot of notes on this guy. So he buys this team in 2008. Since then, as I mentioned before about Stephen Ross, he's always trying to make big splashes without no planning or nothing. First, it came with, here's just a list of things. Do you guys remember the Bullygate scandal with Richie Incognito and what's this guy? Jonathan Martin. That was a big scandal. They're loud. His coaches he hires, they run a loose ship. They're always trying to cut corners. I mentioned before, he brings in these celebrities and make them minority owners just to make the headlines. They overpaid for Ndamukong Suh in 2014, made huge headlines, $100+ million contract, did not amount to nothing. Very sloppy and predictable. Let's go up a little bit farther in the years. 2017, he has a offensive line. You can't make this stuff up, Coach, or Pickles and Mud New Yorker. 2017, Chris Forster, offensive line coach, is what is looked to be, and I want to say he finally admitted it, sniffing cocaine on the video to a hooker and sending that video to the hooker, and then the hooker sends that video out to the public. He resigns. It's just like the show Ballers. It's just like the show Playmakers that the NFL wanted ESPN to take off. This is the real thing. Ballers presented. They had the right. And I think if you ask me, Stephen Ross signed off on that. The show Ballers on HBO, Pickles. The show Ballers, where they portrayed a dysfunctional Miami Dolphin team. And it made the team and look in a bad light, but they authentically used. Anybody that's watched the show Ballers with the Rock, I hated that it canceled. I liked it. It was really good. The dysfunction of the Miami Dolphins, he had to sign off on that. So he's one of these owners where any kind of publicity is good publicity, no matter if it is bad publicity. So we had the Richie Incognito deal, and Ndamukong Suh, who was sometimes forgetting his shoes, coming out without his shoes on when they're in warm-ups after he signed that massive contract. The Richie, like I said, we mentioned that. Now we've got this, the allegations of paying Brian Flores hundreds of thousands of dollars to purposely tank games, and Flores should be upset about that because you are judged on wins and losses, even though they did have 2 winning seasons in a row. He fires them anyways because he has this big grand scheme of plan to go after Tom Brady and Sean Payton, even though they're still under contract, knowing the fact that he's on this team since 2008, that is illegal. But this guy, I think he probably liked this. His lawyer put out a statement. And if you're a Dolphins fan, you really got to be frustrated with this. You know, they look like they're on the right track. I do like Chris Greer, the general manager. I like some of the moves he's made. I wouldn't have paid all that money for Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't have paid all that draft pick, but I do like the hire he made, and I like where they're going. I do like where they're going. Jalen Waddle. The defense, I probably would have tried to work it out with Flores, the fact that he beat Belichick twice. I just call balls and strikes. But again, I just do not I don't buy the fact that the NFL did not think that he wasn't serious about tanking games. And I don't know why the NFL did not want to throw the book. Because, Calvin Ridley was suspended for integrity of the game, in air quotes, for 1 year. Okay. The NFL found some evidence of that being talked about. Fired Dan Campbell for Flores. Yeah. My Pickle says billionaires are control freaks. Yeah. They want to do crazy stuff. There's no long-term plans with Stephen Ross since he took over in 2008. It's like scheme of this guy. I think he started those Equinox gyms, and he had a real estate background. But that doesn't make him smart in NFL. That doesn't make Jerry Jones a NFL expert and player personnel. Like Jimmy Johnson said to Jerry Jones, I've been doing this for 30 years. When you were been doing business for 30 years. I've been coaching and player development for 30 years. Stephen Ross is one of those guys, in my opinion, backed up by this evidence and this history of just throwing things together, asking management to do crazy stuff, and sometimes, and we've proven it, they just got pretty harsh suspension that are unethical. Okay? And it is his disgrace, quite frankly, and I don't know why the NFL did not go harder on him and possibly make him sell this team. Now, maybe they feel like maybe they'll get sued. Maybe this evidence isn't strong enough. But I'm just not a big Stephen Ross fan. I just think he is pretty close to Daniel Snyder. And by the way, I've talked to people, former friend of friends and former players from them while Stephen Ross is on this team. There's also major brawls in the locker room that's not being talked about. Players getting totally trashed before games and coming in. It's as bad as the Playmaker show, the hit show. Carlos, we're about the same age, Bad New Yorker Playmakers that came out in the early 2000s. The NFL didn't like it. It was too close to home. ESPN took it off. Really good show. But it's really dark like that down there. And basically, I'm just telling you, I'm not surprised by the history of this. This is not the Jimmy Johnson Dolphins. And this, like I said, this is nowhere near the Don Shula and the 72 Dolphins where he would fine you if you fought. And if you fought in practice. Don Shula would fine you. Now, we're talking a few ownerships later, 2008, you club chaos down there in Miami. Okay, so speaking of dysfunction, now you guys watch SportsSkope because, I'm pretty good at this stuff. I don't have too much of a life outside of this. I'll drive about 12 hours a day. Hopefully that'll change. We'll find out an announcement on that here in a few weeks. Hopefully that'll change sooner than later. But a lot of what I said has come to fruition. Deshaun Watson, I said between 6 and 8 games seems fair. Okay. That news came out on Monday. It's 6 games. I'm listening to Get Up. I'm reading Pro Football Focus. They actually scooped ESPN and Adam Schefter. And that's why I went on and made that announcement here on SportsSkope Monday morning around 7:20 Central Time, about 40 minutes before the actual announcement was supposed to be made, that Watson will be suspended for 6 games. Okay? I'm going to play a couple of sound bites here from Adam Schefter, if I can find them. Okay. Let me get my other tablet out here. I'm doing tablet hunting. And Schefter talks about how this went down and how this went down and what the NFL approved with the Players Association. That's the key, with the Players Association, and how they found this person, Judge Sue Robertson. This is an unorthodox way of going about this type of hearing and punishment and situation, rather than the judge, jury, and executioner being Roger Goodell, which I think was a really smart move. Kudos to the NFL. Here's Adam Scheffner explaining this process on Get Up ESPN Monday.
By group, but one of Roger Goodell's bosses is Jimmy Haslam. So in this particular case, if they were to hear it, Roger Goodell could hear it, that becomes interesting. But the judge decided today, looking at the evidence from 4 women, the best 4 cases that the NFL could present in terms of text messages and evidence, the judges decided that it is 6 games filed by group.
By the 4 of the best evidence, which means the most text messages, the most evidence of these 24 cases that are civil suits. Now, mind you, let's do a little refresher here. There were two jurisdictions that said they didn't have enough evidence to criminally charge Deshaun Watson. So this person with the NFL, a retired federal court judge, took those evidence from the cases that had the most evidence, text message, any kind of notification, and then she came up with 6 games. Then Scheffner, this is a longer soundbite, but this is crucial. Then he explains why they really should stay with this, because both sides, the NFLPA and the NFL, agreed to this. Okay? The NFLPA said beforehand they're not going to appeal this thing. All right? They're not going to appeal this. And I'm sure Watson, even though he's publicly saying he's a little disappointed, he's got to be pretty happy about this. But here's a longer soundbite explaining this process.
We're trying to deal with it as best we can real time. Go ahead, Shefty. Well, to add on to what Kimberly and RC were saying, here's the difference in all those particular cases. The NFL controlled the disciplinary process with DeAndre Hopkins, with Calvin Ridley. It was collectively bargained. In this particular case, Sue L. Robinson, the retired former federal judge, was jointly appointed by the NFL and the NFLPA. This is the first case that she ruled on. So this is her decision on Deshaun Watson, whereas the other decisions, whether it's DeAndre Hopkins or Calvin Ridley, they came strictly from the National Football League. The league controlled that process, made the decision on that process. The NFL did not control this process other than jointly agreeing with the Players Association to appoint Sue L. Robinson, who made the first ruling that she has under the new collective bargaining agreement. So this is her determination on this case, totally separate. These are independent cases from one another, whether people agree or disagree with it and try to compare the lengths. They can't be compared because this is her ruling. Now, the NFL has a chance to take back the case if it decides to appeal it and send it to Roger Goodell or Roger Goodell's designee. That's the decision the league has to make in the next 3 days. And if that decision is such that they want to challenge it, then this case will go on. Then the NFLPA could wind up suing, and this could go on for a long time.
That's the bullet shot right there I wanted you all to hear. That if they do want to, they meaning Roger Goodell and his ego, want to add games, the NFLPA can and should sue him. And this will drag out in court for years. And then there will be a stay on these games, and he'll be able to play. All right? And what that will do is what I've been saying the whole time is that this is what my issue with Roger Goodell is. This keeps this in the news, this negative tip, this negative energy, this negative vibe. This keeps that negativity in the news. You keep the NFL in the news for all the wrong reasons when you do that. So my thing is, if you don't want to use this arbitrator, use another judge or whatever to do that, I understand that. But if they do that, looks bad for the league. It looks bad for all parties. It looks bad for Roger Goodell. It looks bad for the owners. It looks bad for the players. So I will let it be, like the Beatles song says. And again, listen, like I said, that's what I said in the title here. The NFL, they don't care. All right. First of all, you had another owner, Robert Kraft, who was charged. By the way, Sean Watson wasn't charged. He wasn't criminally charged. He's been sued. The Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, which higher standard. This is what Goodell said. There's a higher standard for owners. He was charged with 2 counts of soliciting prostitution, and that was with the Massage Gate. Okay, he beat the case. Nothing. There's no. This is all about the Shield. There was no penalty, no fine, no suspension, nothing. All right. So, one case. If the people who's defending the league and saying these moralists, they're saying that Watson needs to have the book thrown out of him. Let me tell you this. Let me remind you this. This is why I'm the best in the country at this. Joe Mixon, who played in the Super Bowl this past year in college in 2014. Let me make sure I got this right. Broke a woman's jaw. This is what I got off Google. This was and of course, this was freshman year, Oklahoma. Nixon was arrested and charged with punching a woman in the face at a cafe, breaking 4 bones in her face in July of 2014. We're talking 8 years ago. Before his freshman season with the Sooners began, he entered a Alford plea maintaining his innocence, but recognized the evidence against him and received a deferred sentence. Okay, and he was later suspended for that year. Bob Stoops suspended him. Why was he drafted in the NFL in the 2nd round in 2017 by the Cincinnati Bengals and not suspended for a year? Why was Ray Rice, who was in his 30s, initially suspended for 2 games and then suspended for the rest of the season, and nobody never signed Ray Rice? But this guy is drafted in the 2nd round, never suspended, and played in the Super Bowl last year and got an extension with the Cincinnati Bengals. So my point is, the NFL acts like they care and they don't care. And I understand that it's a business and they don't care. All I ask for is just be consistent with your suspensions, okay? And not try to throw the book at some guys just because you like the way the wind's blowing. If you were consistent, this guy would never play it down in the NFL. If you're consistent, you will look a little farther in those Stephen Ross messages about asking Brian Flores to lose games. All right? And then they turn around because the wind's blowing a certain way and suspend Tom Brady for deflated footballs for 4 games. But they suspend Calvin Ridley for a whole year for gambling. And this Stephen Ross is not even suspended a year. So there's just a big amount. It's whatever way the wind is blowing here. And like I said from the very get-go, get out of the investigation business, Roger Goodell. Stop making it about you. They've moved off of him doing these investigations and got an independent arbiter that that the air quote league and the PA, the NFL PA, both have agreed to. They've got that. That's a step in the right direction. And I understand it's a private business and you want the integrity of the Shield. If you're trying to protect that Shield, you would have suspended according to these rules, because you suspended Ben Roethlisberger for 6 games for 2 charges that were dropped. Why didn't you suspend and fine Robert Kraft for going to a massage parlor? Because his charges were dropped also. There's no rhyme or reason. They don't care. That Joe Mixon video, guys, is still on YouTube. Type in Joe Mixon punches woman. Type in Joe Mixon punches woman. Okay? Why is he playing in the NFL? Because they don't care. So my issue, why there are people that, why are you so mad? Because people on Twitter, blue checkmark reporters, sports people, ex-players are so outraged by Deshaun Watson, but they still watch the NFL and act like this Joe Mixon thing never happened. Now, my thing about Deshaun Watson, why I'm okay with him being suspended 6 games, because when the first allegation came about, he knew that there were other cases. The New York Times report came out that he had 66 different therapists he went to, in air quotes. Okay. And when the first one came out, he should have settled it instead of taking the high ground, because he knew what he did, or any kind of solicitation that he may have done. Now he's admitting, air quotes, something happened. Something happened in these massages. So I'm okay with him. He endangered the integrity. He endangered the shield. He embarrassed the shield. My parents used to tell me when I go in the grocery store as a kid with them, don't embarrass me in here. You know, where I go into a toy store or something. Don't embarrass me. In other words, don't bug me about. So he embarrassed the shield. Now, it sounds like that Watson's got a problem. And that's a real thing now. Ask Tiger Woods. He's went to ask Chris Rock. Chris Rock said he went to therapy for porn addiction. Tiger Woods went to a sex addiction clinic after what happened in 2008 with him. I think he's probably got a problem, judging by everything I read in these situations. But the fact that he did not take care of this situation, and it stayed in the news this long, he deserves the 6 games for that and should be happy for the 6 games. All right? So, that's the criminal opinion of it. Again, like we talked about a few months ago, and I thought that 6 games would be about it. Okay? So, let's look at those 6 games with Jacoby Brissett, who I'm not in love with. I do not know why they got rid of Casey Keenum pickles. Beats all I've ever seen. Okay? So let's go back here and look at these 6 games that they've got coming up. And quite frankly, it doesn't look too bad. They play against former Cleveland Brown, probably, from everything I'm reading. Now, it's just August 2nd. I think Baker Mayfield's going to win that job. They're going to play against former Cleveland Brown with Jacoby Brissett. Now, this is a good roster. And maybe if the NFL does something crazy and the suspension gets longer, but the PA will sue, so Deshaun Watson will be playing anyways. But this 6 games, does Jimmy Garoppolo get cut and play with Cleveland for 6 games? I don't know. I would take a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo over Jacoby Brissett. So my thing is, they play at the Panthers, very winnable week 1. Still got a really good offensive line. Still got a really good defensive line. Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, really good secondary. Got a good shot to go down there and beat them. Probably be a 1-score game there, guys. I'd say maybe Carolina's favored by 2. How about that? But I think they can beat the Panthers. Then they got the Jets at home. Another winnable game. You're going against Zach Wilson in his second year. 32nd in offense, one of the lowest ratings in for quarterbacks. They can beat the Jets. And then they got to play the Steelers at home. I don't think they'll beat the Steelers. I don't care which three quarterbacks they have. And then they got to play at the Falcons. The Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks are going to be the top 5 in the draft, guys. No offense to Atlanta fans, but that's my opinion. And then they're playing the Chargers and the Patriots. Like I mentioned the other day in the Mac Jones, if they had Deshaun Watson, they probably beat the Patriots, or that's a close game. But now that they got Jacoby Brissett, I think the Patriots are going to win that game. So if you are very optimistic Browns fans, if they go 3-3 here and he comes back, by the way, he can practice 3 weeks before that this game's over with. He can practice 3 weeks. My understanding is these guys can play in the preseason. My guess is he didn't play last year. I think he'll play in this preseason, Deshaun Watson. He'll play in this preseason. And if they could go 3-3 during this stretch, let's go over it again. At the Panthers, Jets at home, Steelers at home, at the Falcons, Chargers at home, Patriots at home. If they go 3-3, I think they have a chance to get to the playoffs once Watson comes back, if they're relatively healthy, if Amari Cooper's there, if the defense is somewhat intact. So there's some people saying that with this low suspension that they can win the division. One guy put it out, one reporter tweeted that out, and I thought, no, I don't think so. I still think that Cincinnati will win this division. Now, mind you, Cincinnati has upgraded their offensive line. They got 3 new offensive linemen there. They've upgraded their offensive line. They're coming off of a Super Bowl run. Now, Cleveland didn't match up really well with them, beat them twice last year. But you upgrade this offensive line with that receiving core, with that defense playing at a really high level at the end of last year. They might not have their safety back, but they'll have pretty much everybody else back, including that coaching staff. I still like Cincinnati to win that division straight up, and I haven't even broke out every game. But I think that they're going to ride that momentum into this season, and they're still going to win this game. That does not mean that I don't think that Cleveland can get in as a wild card. But once you're in, you're in. Once you're in, you're in. So all that being said, I totally sign off on everything Cleveland did. All right. No matter, and I know a lot of people do not agree with me on this. They think he is a wretched person, a lowlife, called everything short of being a rapist, if I've read on the internet about Deshaun Watson. But I told you why I think that Cleveland did what they did, and I thought they should do what they do because they're Cleveland. Because they've had one Pro Bowl quarterback alternate, Derek Anderson, in 2007, and then 30 years before that, the last guy they drafted was Bernie Kosar from Miami, and that was in the 80s. Important talent into Texas from everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, and Watson's a player, and I just think that if it's me, I'd probably go get therapy if I'm him. This almost cost him his career, and it sounds like he's got a sex addiction problem, judging by everything I'm reading. You go to that, you take that kind of chance on your career, you got a problem, Not saying that he's perfect, not saying that I am, but he's taking a big chance right there. But as far as football wise, yeah, I do think that that they're going to be in the hunt to the end. Don't think they're going to win the division, but if you get in there, you get in there. Okay, motivation. All these players, all of us in life need a little bit of motivation. We need something, and I've said this about the contracts. I've said this about with Kyler Murray. I said this about did them and everything for Kyler Murray. It's good to have that little bit of edge to prove somebody wrong. We're all human. Not everybody can stay motivated once they're comfortable. Everybody tells them they're great. They got a big chunk of money in their pocket. They got more money on the way. And I want to think I think it was Hagler or Hearns. It might have been Hitman Hearns, Pickles. It says it's hard to get up and do road work when you're boxing. It's a famous boxer from the 80s. I think it was Hitman Hearns or Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I think it was the bald-headed guy. He says you cannot get up from silk sheet. It's hard to get up sleeping on silk sheets and go do road work at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, you got to have that drive. You got to have something driving you. And I noticed Kyler Murray was really ticked off about that in them. They took it out. I would have kept it in. You got people like Warren Moon saying it was racist and all that. I don't know what it was per se, but I do know that when there's smoke, there's fire. And you want to keep that edge on these players and keep the player looking at like they've got something to prove. And that's what I talk about, short contracts, keeping that carrot in front of the stick. You know, the Art of War says people do better when they're backed into a corner. When they're backed up, people fight better. It's an ancient old book. Or somebody's got something that's gnawing at them. Kirk Cousins, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, made a comment saying, you know, we're not really confident in that quarterback. You know, that was the Minnesota Vikings quarterback. Or Lamar Jackson. It came out that Lamar Jackson, a defensive coordinator, said, Lamar Jackson's not a number one quarterback. I don't care how many MVPs he gets. And quite frankly, I wouldn't pay him like a number one myself. But he's put on 30 pounds of muscle. He's supposed to be in the best shape of his career. And he's not holding out. He's got that chip on his shoulder. He did not run at the combine, Lamar Jackson, because people are doubting him. Tom Brady, criticized by the media for the first 10 years as a game manager, and he's brought that up. He was the 6th quarterback drafted. He knows everybody, the other 5, and what they're doing and where they're drafted. My name, by memorization, and here recently, 5 years ago, Max Kellerman said that Brady was falling apart. We're going to see the worst of Brady here in the next few years. Brady last week tweeted back at him, but when that comment and tagged Kellerman, Brady's won 3 Super Bowls, and he had the most passing yards last year since Kellerman made that comment. Okay? It's good to keep that edge. Charles Barkley said since he failed Spanish class in senior year in high school, and he said he was so mad about not being able to walk with his class that he played as hard as he could every single game at Auburn going into the Philadelphia era of his career. And he says that I never thought I would play that hard. I never thought it would affect me that bad to not walk with my class because I could not pass Spanish class. I was very close to that too. I was backed up, and my mom can vouch for this. My mom watches the program. I had to have a C+ in French on the exam to graduate with my class. French 2. When I played around all year, did not pay attention. The Titans were really good that year. Went to the parade, blew off a lot of classes, and I had my back against the wall. I wanted to walk with my friends. And that Friday, when I got home from school to study for those finals, I got home. I put my stuff down. I'm sitting at a table like I am now. We got out at 2 o'clock. At 2:30, I sat at that table to 10 o'clock at night. So I was dead tired. Went to sleep, got back up all day, 10 o'clock Saturday. Same thing Sunday, same thing into Monday morning. And I aced that test. That's the hardest I've ever worked. The hardest, but my back was against the wall. I had that pressure on me. You know, we get the best out of it. That's what we need to do with these players. The Kyler Murray thing, I think he'll play great next year. Aaron Judge is going for the home run record because the Yankees didn't pay him in the offseason. He's got, what, 40, 41? So, short contracts, stable criticism. I'm criticized all the time, guys. I know I have a regional accent. You know, I started late. I started at 36. I know there's people that are not good as me that's doing my job because they could afford to go to better schools and their their second and third generation college students. I'm not. But that's good. It keeps the edge. Pickle says Aaron Judge got 43 home runs. I don't think he would have played that good if he had $300 million and 8 to 10 years added on the contract. I think Yankee fans are getting the best out of him because of that little edge. We're all human. People forget that. You know, people forget that. My dad told me this story. Michael Jordan in 1987 was criticized for not playing defense. So in 1988, he wins Defensive Player of the Year. He wins the scoring title, and he wins the MVP. The only player I've ever heard of to do the trifecta like that in 1 year. Now, he didn't win the championship that year. He did not win the championship. And then when he started becoming really successful, he started making things up. Did you see The Last Dance? So it's a good thing that Kyler Murray feels disrespected. It's a good thing that Max Kellerman said that Tom Brady's worst years are ahead of him. It's a good thing that Aaron Judge didn't get the bag this year, if you're a Yankee fan. Kirk Cousins, once the general manager of the Washington then Redskins, called Kirk Cousins Kurt Cousins instead of Kirk with a K in a press conference. And he did not extend Cousins. Cousins was playing on a franchise tag. And Cousins had a career year. And then you remember him saying, you like that? You like that? And people say, who are you saying that at? He said, I'm talking to that general manager up there. I think it was Bruce, whatever. The guys know well, Bruce Allen, I think is who it was. Washington. It's the best football I ever played, man. You know? So look at something to give you that edge. Look for that. And this is okay. I like what Arizona did. You know? They could have waited. If it was me, I would have waited. He's only in year 4 going back to Kyler Murray. They could have waited, but they didn't. They seen the talent. You know? Another trend going on. Okay. DK Metcalf held out a few days. Now he's gotten paid. He's gotten a big extension there. Debo Samuel, speaking of football here, he's got an extension. Now, I'll say this. I don't have any problems with receivers in this game of football. From where it is now, I understand a receiver won Super Bowl MVP. I understand the new rule changes. But I do think that sometimes people get caught up in the fads. Teams get caught up in the fads. A.J. Brown, really irritated because of guys like DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel, okay, Tyreek Hill, all got big extensions, including himself. All average about, not all of them. I know Tyreek has got a big deal. 20+ million a year. And A.J. Brown was mad because the Tennessee Titans traded him. Now, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but these players, the draft is putting out players because the NFL. Did you actually think that a guy like Kyler Murray 25 years ago would have got a contract like this? No. He's got this because the NFL is adopting and being successful with college concepts like they're running of there in Arizona. Okay. The NFL is also getting a lot of college receivers coming into the league and producing right off the bat. You've seen the 200-yard plus games. What is it? 3 pickles? Postseason records for rookies by Jamar Chase with Cincinnati. All right. By the guy he replaced was a 5th-round pick, Stephon Diggs. And there's a guy out of Detroit, Amon St. Brown, hottest receiver in NFL. Detroit, 4th-round pick, USC. Rookie. Justin Jefferson was coming into his 3rd year. Part of that trade compensation that Minnesota got from Buffalo, Pro Football Focus has Jefferson as a top 5 receiver coming in this year. Why do these teams, and let me double down on what I said about Kansas City. They got the better deal. I still believe they got the better deal on that Tyreek Hill. All them draft picks, plus they've been able to sign Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Who was the other guy? Miko Hartman. Then they drafted a guy. Okay? But, Cooper Kupp was a 3rd-round pick, folks. Jalen Waddle had a great year last year. He was a rookie. Yeah, Jalen Waddle. And my thing is, it's okay. Like, if you got a quarterback, when you want to invest in receivers, if you feel like you have to, and you can't get a guy for cheap, and the guy that's on the road, a guy that's wanting to get a Super Bowl ring, or he's 30 years old, he's on 3rd contract. When you got a quarterback at the first of his career and at the very end of his career, for example, Justin Herbert, Tua, you got 2 high draft quality players. You got Tyreek Hill and you got Jalen Waddle. Tua's rookie contract is making that happen. Justin Herbert. Mike Williams has got $20 million a year. That's the other one. And then you also got Keenan Allen. Now, Herbert's on a rookie contract, and they drafted well. But more often than not, you're going to get bit if you keep paying wide receivers big money. They're probably, and me, I would have probably moved off of Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. I probably wouldn't have signed Mike Williams. He's too inconsistent. Because I like Josh Palmer. Another guy took it in the draft. But I'm okay with what the 49ers done. Because Trey Lance is a young quarterback. You want tight ends. You want to put a little bit extra in your tight ends and receivers for the young quarterback before you get the left tackle. Now, they've got the left tackle at Trent Williams. Probably the best left tackle in football right now. So that's okay. I like what they did. Now, they're trying to get rid of, and they're probably going to release him in the next week. My prediction, Jimmy Garoppolo will be traded, release him in the next week because we're already in training camp. All 32 teams are there. The Watson thing has been done. Maybe Cleveland draft. I don't know. Okay. But this $20 million, I'm okay with what Tennessee did. They got Treylon Burks. The draft is they're giving you receivers at rookie contracts. But my thing is, don't sign them past. And I'm hearing Deontay Johnson's not even close with Pittsburgh on extension. I'm thinking, what? Dude, you're inconsistent. You had a great year before last. You do nothing. Of course you're not close with Pittsburgh. Of course you're not. And Pittsburgh let Juju walk last year. They're going to be fine because they do a good job drafting wide receivers. I don't know what they're going to do with Tomlin, but they're going to be fine, So, again, like I said, Josh Palmer, who heard of him? He came up big at the end. Amon St. Brown. 4th-round pick, Detroit last year. Jalen Waddle, he was a draft pick last. Jamar Chase, for crying out loud. They didn't even need to draft him. I would have still took Penei Sewell at left tackle because of the other 2 players that they had at wide receiver. So I think Tennessee's probably going, as much as I'm going to miss A.J. Brown, he had a knee injury. And plus they knew that they think Traylon Burks is equivalent to A.J. Brown. And they're probably right. They're probably right. It's still about the quarterback. I think Devontae Smith set the world on fire in Alabama. He looked pedestrian last year because it's still about the quarterback. Because Jalen Hurts cannot read defenses. He can't make his second read. And, no offense to Jamie, great guy. Hope to bring him on the program, hopefully more than once, that realize he's not the guy. It's still about the quarterback. Again, very beginning of the career, rookie contract, you can get away with signing a receiver to big money and throw a big tight end there too. Throw a Greg Olsen, a young Greg Olsen. Throw a George Kittle in there, right? Mark Andrews, look how good he's worked out for Lamar Jackson. But middle career, when you're starting to pay that quarterback that is the quarterback, 30, 40, 45, 50 million coming up in the near future, you're not going to be able to afford it. Take care of your line first. You want to get those receivers through the draft, like I just pointed out. Detroit getting Amon St. Brown in the 4th round. Stephon Diggs was a 5th round. Cooper Kupp, MVP. He was a 3rd round pick. If you have good scouts, you will find them. Look at what Pittsburgh's done over the years. They're going through receiver after receiver after receiver. They're drafting. We'd be here all day talking about draft picks, the receivers that were picked by A.J. Brown and D.K. Metcalf played on the same team. They were both 2nd-round picks. Both of them hit. They both played for Ole Miss in college, But my thing is, you can find them if you put forth the effort, So anyways, okay, that was a baseball trade. Juan Soto, as reported, as I said, Buster on it, he said he's going to be traded. End up going to the San Diego Padres. I got to give the Padres a lot of credit here. They're 58-46. They're a small market team. They've got an aggressive ownership. Juan Soto for 2 years at $6 million a year, and Josh Bell for a boatload of players. Most of them prospects. Robert Hassel, James Wood, number 3 in 2020. I mean, just 5 prospects essentially. So these guys have Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, which a way too long contract. He's hurt again. And then they brought in Hader. I think it was a pitcher there. And now they got Juan Soto. But Machado, Soto, and Tatis, if you pay Soto, I mean, that's 3 big players right there. Machado's playing well. But kudos to them. I looked at their payroll. They're 5th in the major leagues. They're all the only game in town. I get it. The Chargers have left. But they're like 213 a year. And the LA Dodgers are 270. So they're competing right there with LA. Pretty good trade there. I was really surprised that San Diego would pull it off. ESPN put out Juan Soto will be the first player in MLB history, 23 or younger, to change teams mid-seasons the year he was an all-star. Padres will get a World Series champion, MVP, runner-up, 2-time Silver Slugger, home run derby champion, and the youngest player in the NL history to win the batting title. They may have hit a home run. You know, I like that. I like the fact, and that's good for baseball. That is really good for baseball. They tried to get Eric Hosner in there. I think he had like a no trade clause, and he didn't want to do it. But I thought that was pretty interesting, Pickles. Let's see. What else did I have in here? Bill Russell died. You know, I did not know that the former Laker great was 88 years old. You know, I thought he was about 78. But Bill Russell passed away over the weekend. And you know what I really liked about a guy like that who grew up when things were really bad? You had real racism. You didn't have a lot of people claiming to be victims and not trying to. Bill Russell, and my dad used to talk about Russell all the time. I got another football story too. I almost missed it. But Bill Russell, one of the better underrated defenders of all time, kept Wilt Chamberlain, from everything I hear and read, and this is way before my time, but kept Wilt Chamberlain in check. Kept 7-foot-tall Wilt Chamberlain, a guy who once scored 100 points in a game, in check. 11 NBA championships, 2 as a coach, 5-time league MVP, 2-time NCAA champ. Some say could be the greatest of all time. You know, passed away. One of the most impact athletes in American history is what the Bleacher Report says, and I agree. You know, and he never claimed to be a victim. And you know what I like about him? Even up to 10 years ago, he says he can still play with these guys. Pickle says Hader may be the best closer in the game. So the Padres, I got to check on their odds. But yeah, rest in peace, Bill Russell. Love everything you stand for. Him and Red Auerbach. There's a picture of him on The Athletic here. Kudos to Red guy like Red Auerbach. You know, Red Auerbach made a point. He says, I drafted black players in the 50s and 60s when nobody wanted black players. And he says in the 80s, nobody wanted the white players, so I drafted the white players and won with both. Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, the great. And he is the first coach, too. Very interesting guy. What a heck of a life. Okay. Almost missed this story. So much news breaking, I couldn't keep up with all of it. But Tom Brady, speaking of going back to Tom Brady, he's got 3 offensive linemen out. And that he's lost. The center looks like he's going to be out for a while. Chris Jensen, I think is his name. And they've still got some time to sign some paper, maybe bring in J.C. Treader or somebody like that. But I wanted to point out the fact that this Saints team, same coaching staff except for Sean Payton. I've been watching all week. Michael Thomas is healthy again, running routes. They got Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger. They also signed Jarvis Landry, former LSU Tiger, with them. And you look at their defense, this team that nobody's talking about. By the way, they've got Andy Dalton as a backup who may beat Jameis Winston, who's coming back from ACL scare. He may beat Jameis Winston in camp and become the starter. Nobody's talking about that. But, you know, I'm looking at those injuries to the offensive line of this team, and I'm thinking to myself, this team with 3 quarterbacks, let's count this up. I got last year's schedule here. They had 4 quarterbacks play last year. Jameis Winston, Trevor Siemian, Hill, and, of course, some guy named Book. And Hill, I guess, Taysom Hill, the gadget guy. And this team, this Saints team, beat the Packers, who went to the playoffs, beat the Patriots in New England, who went to the playoffs, beat the Tampa Bay Bucks at home, and then turn around, went on the road, and beat them in Tampa. Shut them out 9-0 with Taysom Hill at quarterback. And they won 4 out of their last 5. They won 4 out of their last 5. They got, now, thing about Andy Dalton, he don't make big mistakes. That's what I like about Andy Dalton. Now, he don't make big plays. He folds in big games, but he don't make big mistakes. That's a team to watch. That is a team to watch. That is a dark horse team. With the right breaks, this team could get to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that today, but I'm looking at the talent that they have. I'm looking at the schedule and the game. They won, although they had all those upsets. They were 9-8 last year, guys, with 4 quarterbacks and a coach that was in and out because of COVID. And you guys think I'm just supposed to write that off? No way. They're better this year. They've got a really good general manager who gets around things. I don't know how Mickey Loomis does it. Maybe he's cheating. I don't know. But I just think that's going to be a very interesting. And mind you, they've got Chris Olave, and they've got in the draft Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Alvin Kamara. It's going to be a team. This is a dark horse team. And with that offensive line, Brady's pushing 45? And you've got Atlanta's going to be a dumpster fire in that division. They could win the South. Did not want to let that story go. Funny little soundbite I got for you, everybody. Switching gears to why that Nick Saban's really paranoid. Not the fact that Texas has a lot of endowment, but how good of a recruiter and a script that Jimbo Fisher has in his head. He was on Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd said, I'm a 5-star guy. Tell me what is going to separate Texas from everybody else. Listen up. This is really good. I heard this last week. I think it was last Thursday on his show. And I'll see if I can get it here. I think it is this one.
You know, Jimbo. It's
Jimbo Fisher.
Texas. Oh, my good Lord, Jimbo. You know, boy, that Sark guy, boy, he really
Talking
sells
about
me.
Sarkeesian, but Texas.
Listen, here's what A&M has. It has the most complete package of any school in the country. You're talking about culture of university. This place is unbelievable. When you get here, you'll see it. The commitment that people have. It's top 20 educational school in the country. Education's through the roof. The commitment that we have made for instance, right now, we're building a new $160 million facility. Right now, it's going to be state-of-the-art, which no one in the country is going to have for your personal development, what we have. We have coaches that won the 5 coaches that won a national championship. We have coaches that have put as many NFL players in the NFL as we can. Afterward, you're talking about this. We're the 6th richest school in the country with an $18 billion endowment for life after
Woo!
You're talking about one of the 2 largest alumni associations in the country at 550,000 alums. There's 109,000 people at every game. You're playing an SEC schedule each and every time. And here's the important thing. Do you want to go somewhere that has won a championship, or you want to be the first to do it? The people you remember, the guys that really make a difference in the world, are the guys that are the first to do it. If you go somewhere else and just be another guy, you're just another guy. Come here and be the first guy to ever do it and set the standard for a new organization. Those are the ones that got statues outside.
I mean, Jimbo Fisher, I don't know if you all can hear that really well, but he talks about their endowment, the education level, playing in the SEC every week. And I was all off the top of his head. I'm sure Kyle didn't say, I'm going to tell you about the pitch. Now, all that is off top of his head. All that script. And I don't really like, but Bomani Jones, guy's kind of a race baiter with ESPN, but he did say something funny one time. He says, what you're going to see in the SEC is ABC and always be Cruton. He left the R out, but always be recruiting. And, Jimbo Fisher, I thought that was a really interesting tidbit from him. That's one of the reasons why Saban don't sleep well at night, because they're creeping right up on top of him. That plus he mentioned sixth in endowment. I thought they were like 1 or 2. I thought he's being modest. $18 billion plus, $160 million facility. That's why they got 8 5-star guys. Plus, they're probably getting some NIL money out of this world. If you guys like the show, share the show. Pickle says Jimmy G may go to New Orleans. Yes, Jimmy Garoppolo could go to New Orleans. That is a $64,000 question. And if I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm looking at potential Super Bowl if I go to New Orleans. They've had the same quarterback coach, offensive coordinator there for years. I think they'll be A-okay. But if you guys like the show, share the show. If not, I will be back on same place, same time, 9 p.m. Central. If you want to contribute to the program, you can go to the ZELLE app as listed at the bottom of the screen here. And at the word sports with an S and scope at gmail.com is my email address. Have a good night, everybody.